Is the United States in a constitutional crisis, or is this the new 1776? What's going on with the border? What's going on with the missing children? What's going on with these activist judges? To help me go through all of this, I have special guest JJ Carrell. Thank you, JJ, for joining me again.
Thanks for having me, man. With lots changed, a lot is happening every single day. It's a great time to be alive.
Yeah, the last time you were on, President Trump had not won.
Right.
And so now he's won. A lot has changed. Just some background. JJ Carrell is a former Border Patrol. He's now a podcaster and filmmaker. We'll talk more about that in a minute. From my perspective, we've got this 180-degree change on the border. I'm seeing that hardly anyone's coming to the border. What are your thoughts on this? And then specifically, I can't imagine that the Mexican cartels are happy with losing $1 billion business. What do you think they're doing? What are they planning? What are your thoughts on the border?
First off, Donald Trump stopped the flow of illegal aliens crossing our border on day one, not day 1,000, on the first 24 hours. So to go back to put that into context, under Joe Biden's very first day, I was still in the Border Patrol, first day to the day he left, United States Border Patrol averaged arrest of over 5,000 to 20,000 people every single day. And now we're down to 200. That means 200 people on the southern border. The southern border is 2,000 miles. It's every 10 miles, someone crosses every 24 hours. That's a nothing. So Donald Trump has dominated. He's done everything we've asked him to do. My last push for him is to have the military take over our ports of entry and put the military between the ports of entry so we have a complete lockdown border. He needs to buy or eminent domain at least a quarter mile of the north side of the border and make it a no man's land. If we can do that in Korea, we can do that in the Middle East, we can do that in Europe, we sure in the hell can do it in the United States of America, because our sovereignty is way more important than everyone else's. Now you ask, what else needs to be done? All of his effort needs to be pushed to the interior, because there's 50 million illegal aliens conservatively. It's 50 million. 1 in 6 to 1 in 7 residents in America is illegal alien. That is a ticking time bomb for a multitude of reasons, but for the main reason the left did this to us is the left did this in the last 4 years, brought in 30 million illegal aliens to upend our demographics, not race-based, solely on citizens versus non-citizens. And when you layer that 50 million and you layer birth rates on top of that, which I wrote in my book Treason that just came out, I layered and I showed you, I gave you a great example of what I'm talking about. The illegal aliens that are in America are reproducing at a 2 to 5 times the rate of the United States citizen woman. Our women are not even reproducing at the replacement rate. So that means we're dying. We brought in 50 million people, and then their 5 times birth rate on top of that. We're within a generation or two of being the minority in our own country. That's what's happening. And then you ask a very important question. The cartels. It is at least $1 trillion business between human smuggling, child sex trafficking, and narcotic smuggling. Well over $1 trillion. I remember cocaine traffic just in Mexico from the Ariana Felix brothers in the late 90s was 39 billion. 39 billion for cocaine in the 90s. So I'm telling you right now, we're in the trillions of dollars. $1 trillion easy.
Wow.
What are they going to do? They're not going to stop. So you have $1 trillion a year annual business, and you're going to go, okay, well, Donald Trump's in and the Border Patrol is working. I see violence coming on. I see absolute chaos on the border. And that's why Donald Trump has this very small window to get the military on the border. And what people need to understand, and I interviewed retired Colonel Douglas McGregor yesterday, had an incredible interview with him. And he made a great statement that I know, but I don't think a lot of Americans know. We had the military on our border for forever. This is just a recent phenomenon that we don't have the military on our border. Mexico was our enemy. They were constantly coming in and invading into America. So we had our military on the border. Why do we have our military in the DMZ zone in Korea, but we have no one here? Why are we sending people and money to Ukraine, to the Middle East, and nothing here for America? And that's a big question to ask. Why? Why does our government leave us completely vulnerable and everyone else gets money and resources? Because our government is corrupt. I believe that.
Yeah, I over the last 4 years, I've come to cement that same opinion within myself, where it's like, okay, wait a minute, they're either stupid or this is on purpose, and I've decided that it's on purpose, with some stupidity sprinkled in. Do we have enough? I mean, from what you're hearing from people that you speak with on the border, do we have enough military there now, or do we need an even greater presence on the border right now?
Well, the best way to answer that is, are people still crossing? And the answer is yes. So you don't have enough. Because when you go down to the border, let's say where I used to work in San Diego has, in California corridor, has a lot of gap with desert, but then we have literally businesses and homes pushed right up onto the border wall. So we have this, we do everything half-ass on the border. Everything is half-assed. We kind of do a lot on enforcement, and then we really don't do enough. And then why don't we do enough? And the answer is because we don't have the political will. And I want Donald Trump to push the military on the border and make sure no one crosses, like zero. Why do we have a border that still allows people to cross? That it blows my mind. Why do we not have a 100% seal? And don't tell me we can't do that, because I witnessed us do that in the past. We can. So the answer to your question, no, we don't have enough manpower. And I will say, we do not have a policy, a plan in place to handle the 50 million illegal aliens. How do I know that? I'm watching Tom HOman, who I am the biggest fan of, be frustrated, have not enough manpower, not enough resources, and they being ICE are arresting 1,000 to 1,500 people a day. That number needs to be 10,000 to 15,000 a day. That means if you spread that across America, ICE is arresting 30 people a day in each state. Come on, man. There's 50. How many more Tren de Aragua? There's thousands of them. There are hundreds of thousands of special interest aliens / terrorists. There's over 100,000 PLA soldiers that are in our country. We are half-assing everything, and I don't understand why. I really don't.
Okay. So on the one hand, you could say, okay, it was 20,000 people a day. Now it's 200. That's like the Utah Jazz basketball entire stadium versus the men's room line during a break. I mean, it's a big change, but
yes,
why do we still have 100,000 soldiers in Europe, but not here at home taking care? Like, there is no major war in Europe. The Ukraine thing is, Russia's not going to go outside of Ukraine. This war needs to end, although Zelensky continues to betray President Trump. I don't know why we continue to trust this guy, but why? Do you have any understanding on why we're not just bringing soldiers home from overseas and saying, we're now putting you to work on cleaning up America?
I think because we have a corrupt government. And this is not just, look, I understand Donald Trump's in. I'm the biggest MAGA guy you're going to meet. I'm the biggest cheerleader for his cabinet. I love those people. I think they're doing a great job. However, we have thousands of administrative deep staters that are sabotaging, judges that are sabotaging everything we're doing. I believe we're in a constitutional crisis where the president, the executive, has to say to the judicial branch, stand down. I appreciate your opinion and whatever you're saying, but I'm not following you. I'm the executive. I'm going to be an executive, and I'm going to force my executive actions onto America, because we are in a war for the soul of America. Not a fight. We're in a war for it. And if Donald Trump needs to take that stance, if you will, that, hey, you know what? We're tired of defending Europe. For God's sake, can we all just stop for a second and realize that America has never been this vulnerable? Name me quickly one civilization throughout the history of mankind that has undertaken this percentage of demographic upheaval and survived. And the answer is none. The greatest empires, Rome, Greece, the Ottoman Empire, They collapsed. They got too big like we did. And they had all these foreigners come in that have no allegiance. And don't be mistaken by the lie from the Republicans for George W. Bush all the way through Obama and Biden that all these people want to be Americans. They love America. They hate America. I wrote that in my book, Invaded, and I wrote it again in Treason. And I show you openly, they're not here to produce and be Americans. They're here to take. Why do you think inflation is skyrocketing? Why do you think all the social services in the big cities have deteriorated to nothing? Why are small towns being overrun? I write in my book multiple times the hollowing out of it. I just did a whole chapter on the hollowing out of the small towns. You have small towns that have had their total population replaced by illegal aliens. Their entire population. Laughlin, Ohio. 3,500 residents. 3,500 residents. They brought in over 3,000 Mauritanians. Where's Mauritania? Well, the real name of that country is the Islamic Republic of Mauritania in Africa. And they have two great things that I can't wait for them to share with all the people in Iowa. Two great things from Mauritania. The poorest nation in the whole continent of Africa, and two, their greatest celebration recently is allowing little girls to go to school. That's their two achievements. And we brought in 3,000 and put them in a community that had 3,500. It's over. But that is one of dozens of small towns across America that have been decimated by Joe Biden and this illegal alien invasion.
Yeah, another one came up during the presidential debates on whether, are these illegals eating animals or whatever. But I'm going off of a really old memory, but it was like Springville, Ohio, or
Springfield,
like 65,000 residents. They brought 35,000 Haitians in, which is more than 50% of the population. And those people, they don't know how to behave like Americans. And this has nothing to do with skin color. I've actually lived on the border of Haiti in the Dominican Republic, and they behave completely different than Americans. The thinking, the ideology, the poverty, it's all just totally different thinking. And then you dump like a massive, like football stadiums worth of people into one small town. And then everyone wonders why they can't find a place to rent, why groceries have doubled, why rent has tripled, why their car insurance, and they're getting into all these car accidents. It really is just like overwhelming the system. And you're right. Going after these small towns, what a brilliant but evil strategy.
Well, they are, and I document this, and there's two small towns in Indiana, one's north of Indianapolis, one south of it. Let's take one of them, for example, has 28,000 residents, and they have over 28 different languages in their schools. 28 languages. They have their kindergartens are completely inundated with English as the second language. They have no money. Everything has been destroyed in that town. You just go through one town after another, and you begin to realize, they're destroying the small towns. They're changing the demographics of America. And then the bigger question that never gets asked is the three-letter word, why? Why did they do this? Because they being the global elitists want complete changeover in power. There's two reasons why. Internationally, they need to bring America to her knees. That's the only way you reset the power structure in the world. Two, when they bring these people in, and this has already been shown, they already talked about openly in Congress, when they do the 2030 census and the Democrats win that fight that illegal aliens are counted in the census, they predict between 60 and 62 seats will be redistricted to the Democrats. 60. So we're now holding on to a majority by 3. Can you imagine if the House flipped 60 seats to the Dems? It's over. It's absolutely over. And that's why I say we are sitting on a ticking time bomb that Donald Trump has to have more urgency to get these people out of the country.
Okay. I saw this morning that Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, he was on the news. He said, one thing that gives him hope is that they were able to put 235 judges on the bench under Biden. and that they are blocking Trump time after time after time. He had this big gleeful smile. Is this not like coordinated plan, coordinated use of lawfare against a sitting president?
I absolutely agree with that. Tell me one thing that Donald Trump's doing that you would oppose to. The judges and the Democrats actually don't want Donald Trump removing criminal murderers and rapists into a prison in El Salvador. They would rather them come back to America, and release them into our society. If you don't understand that the federal government is the enemy of the people, I don't know what to tell you. And I believe, again, we are sitting in a constitutional crisis. When historians look back on this, they're going to say it's not a month from now. They're going to say it started on the first day Donald Trump took office, and we are now in a constitutional crisis where Donald Trump's going to have to make the statement, I'm the executive and I'm following through. And do what Andrew Jackson said. Andrew Jackson told the Supreme Court, when the Supreme Court said you need to give back all the lands in Georgia back to the Cherokees, it is reported that Andrew Jackson, the president, said, thank you very much. Now go pound sand and try to enforce that. You men in your black robes don't have any law enforcement. You have no military. You have nothing to enforce anything you're doing. I, the executive, have the military. I have the law. It's in my side of the court. Our founding fathers never envisioned that district court judges would have more power than the president of the United States. It's absurd on the face. And we need to, the idea, Americans, maybe this is the best way. Americans, for whatever reason, believe that the current situation is what has always been. And that's a lie. The courts, the power of the courts have never been like this except for the present day. We've had our founding fathers created the executive and the legislative to have oversight and the ability to remove judges. That tells you everything you need to know. If you had to make a list of the three branches of government and who has the most power, you would take the judicial branch and put them under the executive and legislative. They're not on top. Somehow they've got to the top, and we're all bowing down to the Supreme Court as if they are some intellectual giants. Oh my God, can we go through at least 6 of them and think they're absolutely the biggest bozos on planet Earth, and they're running our country?
Yeah. Two things that came out this week that I thought were interesting. Stephen Miller, advisor to President Trump, said, even in the Supreme Court, you have to have 5 people agree to shut down a president. But now in the lower courts, one guy who no one's ever heard of, that doesn't have a lot of experience as a judge, has made him or herself more powerful than the president of the United States. Then President Trump said, how come we always know how the 4 liberal judges will rule, but we never know how the 5 conservative judges will rule? Your thoughts on those comments?
I think Stephen Miller is a genius. I really do. And he shuts down the left constantly, and he makes incredible points that are just common sense. It just takes one rogue judge that we don't even know about. Some dude in Nevada or Maine or Washington, D.C. just randomly pops up and says, nope, you can't do that. And everybody goes, oh my gosh, we got to listen to that guy. And you're like, well, who is that guy? Could you spell his name for me? No, I don't know how to spell Boasberg. You're right. But he's running our country. But I would like to push back on Donald Trump. Sir, you picked 3 of these Supreme Court justices. Amy, you couldn't figure someone out besides Miss Amy to be the Supreme Court justice? Why did you choose her? I would like to have that question. She seems like she's a leftist in the way that she rules. And if we're really going to be honest in this discussion about Supreme Court justice, there has to be some type of investigation on what the hell happened to Roberts. What happened to him? Who got to him? He's compromised. Anybody in law enforcement, intel, anybody can see just from his writings and then him changing 180 degrees on his writings, like within 24 hours, that the man's compromised. We are rotten to the core, and I believe in our government. I believe Doge is uncovering it, and I think that even though we're living in exciting times, I think this is an age of awakening, meaning we're going to discover things in the next month, 2 months, year that are going to shock us to their core, and it's going to crumble our foundation because we're going to be shocked. Look, look what's happened in the last 2 days. We're now finding out with complete certainty that the CIA killed our sitting president, JFK. And no one says anything. Everyone's like, well, of course we knew that. Okay, what's for lunch? And people like Ben Shapiro came out yesterday and goes, I really don't care who killed JFK. Can we move on? And I'm like, wow, how compromised are you, man? Because Israel's tied to it that you don't want to find? What if it was just Sudan that was tied to it? What happened then is still happening today. Do you think some 20-year-old willy-nilly dude that had skinny arms was able to climb up onto the most perfect spot to shoot our President Trump? And that is the only 20-year-old in the history of the world that has no social media. No social media. A 20-year-old with 3 cell phones and multiple international bank accounts, and everyone is not interested or the little bit curious. Hey, that's weird. Should we look into that? No. Don't worry about it. Trust your government. There's no way that kid did it by himself, and there's no one's going to convince me that our government didn't have a hand in it. Absolutely won't.
I can't trust my government. They secretly burned his body and then didn't tell anybody. Like, why would you go in and like sterilize his house and then a few days later burn his body, and then they hold congressional hearings? The hearings are ongoing and it still hasn't come out. This kid's body was burned. Hide something. It's so weird.
Well, they clean the crime scene. They're up there with power washers because they don't want you to know about the blood spatter. And it goes against everything law enforcement. My father was a Secret Service agent, and he was extremely successful, rose up through the ranks to the high levels. And he was like someone that you would want guarding you. 6'4", 275 pounds, just like a bear of a man. Not 5'4" females that cover your nipple line and have your headshots like they did. My father, in his worst day, he had 6 kids, a great wife, but it was chaotic, right? So his best day dealing with a wife with 6 kids, being sick, having an injury, even the worst possible scenario you could throw my dad in, there's no way in hell he would have created a security apparatus that resembled that. Meaning there's no way incompetency could come into there. There's no way that you could create the worst scenario in the history of protection. And we saw it, and nobody even questions anybody. No one. A little dweeb scales a building in front of everyone, and all the people are pointing, going, there's a guy up there with a gun, and there's no communication between law enforcement, and they allow him to get off several rounds. And no one has any curiosity to go, wait a minute, we know that our CIA killed our president in the 60s. Oh, I understand. We're more enlightened now. Our CIA that has done horrific things across the globe would never hurt our former president. I mean, you have to just suspend yourself from reality completely. Our government, and I agree with you, there is no other explanation except they are guilty of treason. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Going back to the judges really quickly. So why would this Judge Boasberg want to bring murderers and rapists, some of the worst, I mean, like tattoo covered, like just horrible human beings that cannot function in society, and he wants to bring them back? On top of that, you have this Judge Chang who just said, okay, even though there's 55,000 fake charities and NGOs, and USAID was an entire money laundering operation for the Democrat Party, it's unconstitutional. You have to bring it back. I mean, like, think how many people you know on Border Patrol that have been giving it their all. They're being told to look the other way, or they're committing suicide or whatever. And then you find out that it's the Democrat-led USAID that's been funding the invasion of our country, and now you've got these lower level judges putting stuff back in. Are these judges just drinking the Kool-Aid of their party ideology, or are they being instructed to continue to destroy America?
I think they're being instructed. I mean, it's common sense. Like when you break it down, all the noise, you just ask yourself, why would you bring back, or why would you try to stop us from deporting illegal aliens from our country? The Alien Enemies Act allows you to do that. Congress hasn't repealed that 1798 law. Why are you stopping that? That's because our government does not care about you. Look, you made a great point. USAID funded this entire invasion, funded it. I wrote about a hole in my book, and what's amazing for me and what's very professionally validating is everything I put in my documentaries, everything I wrote in my books are coming to be proven absolutely 100% true. I citate everything, but because of Doge and Donald Trump's executive actions, I'm seeing it in real time. USAID funneled tens of billions of dollars to Soros, to the UN, to the IOM, and they funded hundreds of NGOs to transport people from across the globe, 180 different nationalities, and flew them, drove them, fed, clothed them, and brought them to the border. And then our government funded FEMA through the DHS. FEMA gave tens of billions, if hundreds of billions of dollars to the domestic NGOs that took the 30 million people from the border and distributed them into America. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. There is no more, well, that's conspiracy. Well, you didn't connect the dots. No. I didn't connect just the dots. I connected all the dots, and then I colored the picture for you just to make sure that you can see that it's treason. And if you don't want to admit to it, you're either so grossly stupid, which I can't deal with you at all, or you're part of the problem. You're complicit. And we're seeing that USAID funneled all the international NGOs, all the domestic NGOs were funded, and that is how now we're discovering the politicians are getting wealthy because they sit on the NGOs and the NGOs give them salaries and kickbacks. It is unbelievable what we have now discovered, that our government is the most corrupt government in the history of mankind ever.
Yeah. Whew. It's a lot, I sometimes I envy my friends that don't know any of this stuff is happening. They're just, having fun, playing golf. And I'm like, dude, read the news. Like, things are rough out there. It's pretty scary. Okay. I'm trying to think how to pose this question. Okay. You and I see the invasion of the border, the takeover of America, the destruction of the dollar, abuse in our military. We see all that as a failure, right? So let me put on now my Democrat hat. They see the invasion of America as a good thing. They see the invasion of America as a success. Was Alejandro Mayorkas the man for the job to betray the nation, to fulfill the orders of the globalists and those that were running Joe Biden? Was he the man to help destroy America?
He absolutely. I say that he is the tip of the spear. Alejandro Mayorkas, let's understand where this man came from. He didn't fall out of the sky, right? And oh my gosh, here's Alejandro Mayorkas. Alejandro Mayorkas was the director of USCIS. That is one of the most powerful organizations within the immigration machine. He did that for 4 years under Obama. Obama's second year, he became the second in charge, the deputy secretary, DHS, and then he became the secretary, DHS, under Biden. Every immigration policy, and I don't mean some or a lot of, every immigration policy that we lived through during these last 4 years, the creator of it was Alejandro Mayorkas. Alejandro Mayorkas created DACA. It's unconstitutional. Catch and release, unconstitutional. Amnesty, asylum, parole, both are bastardized, illegal. Catch and release, CBP one out. Hell, I could go on and on and on. One man did it. And I want to go back and say, well, where did he come from? He's a naturalized citizen from the communist nation of Cuba. Now, are there great Cuban Americans? Absolutely. But I have to question when I'm looking at the totality of a picture and I go, this guy was from the communist nation of Cuba. This guy sat on the board of HIAS right up until the time that he became the secretary and then funneled billions of dollars to HIAS. What did HIAS do? HIAS was down in the Darien Gap and in Central America, and it was funneling all the illegal aliens to the border. He's a traitor. He's an absolute stone cold traitor to our country. And this is not my words. In multiple Sunday shows toward the end of his term as secretary, multiple times he openly admitted that he, Alejandro Mayorkas, built regional processing centers in 4 to 5 different nations to help facilitate the movement and the efficiency of illegal aliens to America. He openly admitted and bragged about it. Michael Yon, the investigative journalist who's always down the Darien Gap, in April 2022, was down there, and he says, I've spoken to him, he's a friend of mine. He said, JJ, I'm down there in April in the middle of the jungle trying to look at these regional processing centers. They're all half-assed and tense. And he goes, all of a sudden, I see Black Hawk helicopters landing in the jungle. He goes, I pushed my drones up immediately. And he goes, guess who is in the middle of the jungles in April of 2022? His name's Alejandro Mayorkas. Why is the secretary of DHS in the jungles of Panama? And then we all know he's there to make sure the building of the regional processing centers that he Orwellian called safe mobility offices. I don't even know what the hell that means, SMOs. But what I want your audience to understand, through the Panama into Central America, this man built brick and mortar buildings to facilitate the efficient flow of migrants to America. That's treason. I don't care what your ideology is. I don't care if you hate Trump or love him. This man helped change the demographics of America. He created an app on your phone. On your stupid iPhone, there's an app. Like you go to Open Table. Open Table is an app where you go to, I want to go to a nice restaurant. I literally put in my information and they go, okay, you're reserved. The same thing he did for illegal aliens across the globe. I make an appointment to walk into a port of entry or an airport, and they just let me go because I have a QR code. There's no security. How many did he do that to? Over 1 million. Over 1 million people he let walk into America. That doesn't even count the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people that he flew in on commercial and charter airlines and never reported them on any official document. Millions of illegal aliens from across the globe he flew in and released. He also oversaw the arrest, release of 550,000 unaccompanied alien children that were all sex trafficked and labor trafficked into America. And they can't find them now. To this day, they can't find them. Donald Trump can't find them. And Donald Trump has already openly said multiple times, quote, a lot of them are already dead. And he's right. And we all need to pray that the vast majority of them are already dead. Because what they have to go through is beyond hell. But our government did it. Our government. But I'll go one step further if you let me just have one more minute.
Yeah. We
can be mad at our government, which we should be, and we could hate the cartels. And I dealt with them for 24 years, and I hate them. They're scum of the earth. So they're evil demons, and they're violent, and they need to be eradicated. However, America really needs to look in the mirror because the cartels are no different than Amazon. Do you have packages just show up on your doorstep from Amazon that you never ordered? And the answer is no, because they only deliver what you request. The cartels are no different. Why do you think they smuggle people in? Because we demand cheap labor. Why do they continue to smuggle in millions of tons of hard narcotics into America? Because we demand it. Why do they bring little children into America for us to have sexual perversion and to R them? I don't know if you're on YouTube or your problems to do R to them. because we ask for it. We don't just ask for it, we demand it. The number one consumer of child pornography in the world, America. Number one consumer of hard narcotics in the world, America. Number one producer and exporter of pornography in the world, America. And the number one demand for cheap labor, United States of America. We the people are the problem. We are. We're the problem. And we have to root it out of our society. But we're so sexually perverse now. We are so evil. We do things that are so abnormal, so against God's natural order, that we're living in this world that is fallen. And if you say, well, JJ, that's a bunch of Christianity mumbo jumbo. Really? Can we just spend 30 seconds and talk about what's happened in the last, 4 decades? 60 million babies murdered in the womb. Don't care if you're for abortion or not. That's just the truth. We are ripping the genitals off our children now. Men in dresses with fake breasts are teaching in our schools, reading to our children, dancing in parades across America. We have transgender ideology. People don't know, the kids don't know what sex they are. We have absolute chaos in our society, and everyone wonders, well, I wonder what's wrong with America. Dear God, can we all just wake up and just say the truth? That we are in a moral rot. Donald Trump's not going to fix this. He can't. He's just one man. It's us Americans that have to demand the change and demand that this insanity ends. But I don't see anybody, to be honest with you. If you remove Donald Trump from the equation, tell me, does anything we're doing now happen? And the answer is no. Who's going to stand up? Someone in Congress? What has Congress even done to solidify these executive orders? Nothing. Has any bill been passed? Have they been even in the House? What the hell is going on in our country? And I'm telling you, we are in a ticking time bomb on a population demographic. And we are looking at hundreds of thousands of terrorists, over 100,000 PLA soldiers, millions of gang members and criminals. Of the 30 million people that crossed the border in 4 years, 60 to 70% are single adult military-age men from Haiti, Venezuela, the continent of Africa, and the Middle East. How do you think this is going to work? How do you think this plays out? Do I need a magic crystal ball to see it? No. All I have to do is look at the UK, Germany, Sweden, France, and then we get a small version of what's going to happen to America.
Yeah. Just today, the prime minister of the Danish people came out and said, I think we've screwed up with our immigration, and we are going to pay for this for a couple of generations. Now, hopefully something will happen there, but I don't know. It might be past the tipping point. You've got some films that you've been doing. You've got some books out. I definitely want to put some links to those. But what are you working on right now? How can people follow you online, JJ?
The best way to go is you can see my documentaries and my books. And I have a new book that just came out called Treason. It came out in the end of February. It's been a bestseller on Amazon for over 3 weeks. I'm very proud of it. You just go to jjcarrell.com. Just jjcarrell.com. It has all the links there to all my socials and all the work that I'm doing. And I'll be honest, I'm sitting here looking at what Donald Trump has done to the border. And I thought, well, I had a 2-year plan when I wrote Invaded, my first book. And then I knew I was going to have to come back and look at the totality of what Biden did. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'll give Donald Trump 2 or 3 years and write a book about how great he was or where he made mistakes on immigration. But I have to start writing my third book like right now, because what he's doing is Herculean, and the time what he's done and because we just hit 2 months yesterday, 2 months. This man, it seems like it's been 20 years he's been in office. That's how much he's done. So I believe this is the greatest threat to our republic, and it's what the globalists decided to use, and they decided to use mass illegal immigration across the globe to fundamentally transform the power structure. And the people that run our country made the same decision under Joe Biden. And we witnessed it, or at least I witnessed it in real time, being in the Border Patrol, watching unconstitutional orders rain down from Washington, D.C., changing the whole landscape of the border and immigration law.
Yeah. I agree with you. He's gotten so much done, but if they don't nip this lower judge bullcrap in the butt right now, he's going to be hamstringed for the next 46 months, and it's not going to really matter. And so I'm just hoping and praying that they get that resolved. JJ, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know, that you've done a lot. You've been so supportive to this movement, to making the border safe, helping your, brothers and sisters on the border to have hope until Trump got in. And now I'm sure just one last question. Like,
Sure.
would you say that morale on the border is completely different now?
The from Border Patrol and ICE, it's like they're two different organizations. And literally the light switch just went right back on. That's how fast it was. Morale is off the chart because guys now are able to do their job. ICE agents are now arresting illegal aliens that they never did before. Border Patrol now has their respect back on the border and ownership. But it's going to take quite a while because you have a generational gap within the Border Patrol and ICE that were emasculated, if you will, and destroyed. It's going to take time to rebuild that. You lost a lot of operational knowledge in just 4 years because of the vast amounts of older guys, senior leaders in the organization left because they could not tolerate it. I left, and I would still be in the Border Patrol today if Joe Biden didn't steal the election in 2020. Why? Because we were within 6 months of having the border completely shut down under President Trump. But we're living in a very unique time. But the morale in the United States Border Patrol and ICE is off the chart once again, just because of one man, not the Republican Party, just because of Donald Trump. That's it. He's MAGA. I'm no longer Republican, and I believe a lot of people feel the same way. I'm a MAGA. That's my party. Republican Party left me a long, long time ago.
Yeah, it is a different party. Well, I'm MAGA too. I've got 7 of these hats sitting on my desk. We're doing a big MAGA hat giveaway on our podcast. But again, thank you. I'm going to put a direct link to your X account as well as jjcarrell.com so that people can find you easily. Thank you so much for coming on, for all that you do, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too.